The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place with my partner, Ian Parker. I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
Let's go, baby. It's UFC 285, a massive main event, a massive heavyweight main event between Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane, and is going down on the Las Vegas Strip on Saturday, and we are here to talk about it from a gambling perspective, give you the picks, give you the parlays, give you all the information you're looking for. We are doing it in person for the first time in 2023. What's up, my man?
Yeah, bro.
It can't make it all the way over there.
Yeah, we don't have the
there,
longest reach like the heavyweights, but we get a little
bit of an air bump there, which we're used to doing, but we're usually not in the same room when we do it. But Ian is in town. I am always in town here in Las Vegas, and this is UFC Best Bets. We are going to be talking about UFC 285. But before we do have some business, as usual, to wrap up last week's event. It was UFC Fight Night. It took place right here in Las Vegas. Ian, how did we do, and what did we learn last week?
Well, we missed the parlay with Andre Muniz. He fell short to Brendan Allen. Kudos to Allen. He looked phenomenal there. We went 2-2. I did think Charles Johnson won that fight. That was the difference in being profitable or not. And we did have Krylov in the main event that got canceled. Not ideal, but this week, like me, hate me, tail me, fade me, we're going to bounce back this week for 285. Jon Jones, Ciryl Gane.
Hey, we'll be here with all the breakdowns, all the analysis, and the picks. And as always, man, I have full faith that this is going to be a winning week as usual. Let's take a look at this main card, this UFC 285 main card. You can find it at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN+. Dude, this is a good main card. You got Jon Jones, Ciryl Gane, obviously, but then Valentina Shevchenko, of course. Her dominant flyweight stretch continues against Alexa Grasso, looking to play spoiler. You got Jeff Neal taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov, and now what is a catchweight bout after Jeff Neal missed weight. We'll talk about that. Mateusz Gamrot taking on Jalen Turner, who has been on fire, but he comes in as an underdog. We're going to be talking about that one as well. And then Bo Nickel, one of the hottest prospects ever, taking on Jamie Pickett. So let's talk about this main event first, man. I mean, obviously, I think everybody's aware of sort of the circumstances around this one. A long layoff for Jon Jones, a move up to heavyweight that we've been talking about for years and years and years. He's a heavyweight, weighed in at just under 250 pounds. A lot of people talking about his physique on that scale. Coming in at minus 185, and that number is climbing by the minute, it seems like. How are you breaking down Jon Jones's return to the cage and his first time at heavyweight?
You know, for me, look, we're talking about arguably the greatest fighter of all time. We can talk about the asterisks, we can talk about the issues he's had on and off the field, the cage, however you want to skin that cat. But at the end of the day, you and I talked about this off camera. For Jon Jones, if he's coming back for this fight, that means he wants that legacy. He's talked about heavyweight for a long time, and the physique that we saw in some of the pictures floating online did not look the same as what we saw on the scale. I thought he looked pretty good, and for a guy going up to heavyweight, he said for years, I need time to build that weight. I don't want to have the disadvantage, and I believe that with my size, I can maintain that light heavyweight speed, that explosiveness. Now that's where we're going to see if that's the truth or not. I also think that with Jon Jones, being that he's coming back, he is here to show why he is so dominant while he's arguably the GOAT. I think we're going to see what we saw when he first started off his dominance in his career, and not just coasting with the striking. We're going to see, I think, grappler, wrestler Jon Jones here.
I 1,000,000% agree, and you teed me up beautifully because I was going to throw in my 2 cents on the physique.
Please do.
Look, Jon Jones has earned the right to have us give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of if he's doing something for a particular reason.
For sure.
He has had some of the outside of the cage issues, but when this guy does come in and fight, he is mentally and physically ready to go. Even when, at situations when he was kind of partying outside away from the scenes, this guy was he was ready to go on game day. And to me, I look at the physique and it tells me that he knows that Ciryl Gane is going to be a quick guy. He wants to be a strong, powerful guy. He wants to wrestle in this fight. I really do think that you look at the physique of Jon Jones, I see a guy who is planning on wrestling Ciryl Gane on Saturday.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've put on a lot of weight, and I don't look like that, with my physique, and you can see with the line movement. Look, they started off almost even minus 115, minus 105. Now Jones at minus 180. That means as much as you're hearing people saying that Gane may be that perfect opponent for Jon Jones, we've heard this before. I don't necessarily think he is. I think Ciryl Gane spends a lot of time fighting off the back foot. He's not a pressure striker. He's not going to threaten with the wrestling. That's going to give Jon a lot of time to download the information. And if he wants a kickbox for the first 2 rounds, that may throw Ciryl off. And I could see that happening. But again, at any point, Jones can get that Greco-Roman working. He can push against the cage. And that's where he kind of dictates the narrative, and that's what I see kind of happening.
Yeah, and I gotta admit, I was a little surprised by the line movement initially. Had you asked for my prediction coming into this, I wouldn't have thought that there'd be a ton of money coming in on John. I thought that maybe Ciryl would get some of the love, but I think that's just because of how John has been carrying himself, man. He's been carrying himself very, very confidently, and even though some people don't think he looks great physically, I think that what they're seeing from the mental side is better. So at the end of the day, when we look at everything that we've just discussed, what's the pick here on the main event?
For me, it's John Bones Jones. And look, until he proves me otherwise or he's fighting Matt Hamill, I'm taking John Jones here. I'll roll the dice. I still think that statistically, skill-wise, he's got the goods to be the heavyweight champ in this division. That wrestling, that grappling, truly high fight IQ. And I think people are kind of relying on that narrative that against Dominic Reyes, against Thiago Santos, he looked lazy, unmotivated. When you're winning as much as you are and you're getting by on minimal nothing, now he's motivated, and now he can go back to the well with the wrestling, and that's what I think gets done here.
Well, I'll tell you what, get it in quick, because I really don't see there being a change and this line all of a sudden flipping back towards Gane. Okay, let's talk about the co-main event. It takes place at 125 pounds. Valentina Shevchenko taking on Alexa Grasso. Valentina coming off of the hardest, most difficult fight of her flyweight career in the UFC. So do you think that you got her at a lower price on this one? Absolutely not. She is still minus 900 to get it done against Alexa Grasso, coming back at plus 600. You can see the lines there. Minus 900, you know, that's Valentina Shevchenko range. We're not, I mean, this is no surprise when you got Shevchenko in there. So how you go about betting this fight?
You know what? I try to look towards also her opponent, Alexa Grasso, what she brings to the table. Someone who's very good at boxing, has a good ground game, good cardio. We've seen it. She's gone 5 rounds before. You know, her only finished loss was back in 2018 to Tatiana Suarez, which at that time, even now, there's no shame in that. Her only other loss was to Carla Esparza by decision. For me, I think Valentina, you know, yeah, she wants to prove that the Talia Santos fight that she quote-unquote won, a lot of people thought she did not. So this is an opportunity to come back, kind of get back to the dominance, show what you have. I think she just didn't take Santos too seriously. I didn't feel like she thought she would have problems anywhere, would be able to dominate. For me, though, I'm going over 2.5 rounds in this fight. I think Grasso's stand-up is good enough to play defense here. If the fight goes to the floor, I think her defensive jiu-jitsu can keep away from submissions. Do I think Valentina can get it done later on? Yes, but I think over 2.5, I think we're pretty safe there.
Okay, so we're over 2.5 on the co-main event. Let's move to 170 pounds. This might be the fight I can't say I'm looking forward to the most, because the main event is what I'm looking forward to the most, but this one is right there. Geoff Neal and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Geoff Neal came in, missed weight, so I do think we need to discuss that just slightly. But what I like about Neal is that the mindset he's had, man. He's wanted this fight. Even when this fight got canceled back in January, he was very quick to tell the UFC, like, do not give him a different opponent. Just kick this thing down a little bit. I want to be the guy who beats this guy. 16-0, Shavkat Rakhmonov. That is reflected in the lines, minus 550. What do you think here? You
know, when I met Geoff at the MMA Awards, he kind of echoed the same sentiment, and that was before the injury got announced. He said, you know, I'm going to beat this guy. Now, Geoff has proved before in underdog situations he can fight. Really good hands. I guess very underrated on the ground. He's got decent wrestling. For this fight, though, he's going to have to not have a slow start, which we saw against Neil Magny. He's going to have to really fight the way he did against Luque and not be afraid of this mythological creature in Shavkat. So for me, I still think Rakhmonov gets the fight done inside the distance. That weight cut really throws me off by 5 pounds. That's a lot. It's very out of character for Geoff Neal, who's never missed weight before, and he is fighting someone in Rakhmonov who is just so good everywhere, and he keeps getting it done. I don't see any holes in the game just yet. I think we're talking about a potential future champion in this guy, and I think he gets it done here against Geoff Neal.
Yeah, that was a late curveball having Geoff Neal miss weight. Very, very interesting. Interesting to see what he says about that after the fight is over. Let's move to the 155-pound division. You got Mateusz Gamrot coming on in as a minus 220 favorite, despite the fact that he was not supposed to fight Jalen Turner initially. This was supposed to be Dan Hooker. Turner has been on a roll, 5 fights. He's finished 5 consecutive opponents, but Gamrot's a very, very tough guy to finish. Very, very good wrestling. And that, again, the line is reflecting that. Vegas likes Mateusz Gamrot here, and not by an insignificant amount, minus 220. What do you think of this one?
See, the last one was your favorite one. This one's my favorite one. We have been betting on Jalen Turner a lot since we started the show, and we've done well. And Turner, to me, is a unicorn in this division. He is so big, long, very well-rounded. He's done a great job since that loss to Matt Frivola, going on, I believe, a 6-0 streak. But he is fighting someone in Gamrot who is just relentless, hard to put away. We saw against Dariush. Dariush landed everything. He got back up. The chain wrestling, the nonstop, and in a 3-round fight, it's hard to really put someone away like that. For me, I'm going to go opposite of what I believe a lot of people are going to think I'm going here. Do I think Turner's a live dog? 1,000%. For me, it's over 1.5 rounds. I think that first round is going to be a lot of distance measuring for Jalen Turner, trying to keep away the takedowns, and Gamrot trying to get in and get the takedown. I think by the 3rd round, If a finish happens, it's there. I think Turner will eventually be put on his back and play a lot of defense, but this is going to be a fun fight.
All right, so we're taking the over in the co-main event. We're taking the over in the lightweight affair there as well. Now let's move to the middleweight division. A lot of talk here, obviously, about Bo Nickel making his UFC debut, facing the guy in Jamie Pickett who, you know, hey, this is no discredit to Jamie Pickett whatsoever, but look, this fight, I mean, this fight's set up for Bo Nickel to roll, right, Ian? I mean, he's minus 1,600. Jamie Pickett has had a tough time in the UFC. He had a tough time even getting into the UFC. He was 1-2 on the Contender Series. How do you try to go about playing a guy who obviously skills through the roof, but not a whole lot of sample size to look at here?
Well, look, if Bo Nickel watches this show, I'm going to say, Bo, I'm a huge fan, but we can't bet on you at minus 1,800. Granted, you think it's okay to make that bet. He said it on Twitter. However, where I look to is for our props. You know, his last 2 fights on the Contender Series, both by sub. His first fight was by knockout. However, this is a guy who, let's be honest with ourselves here, he is not going to want to stand and bang with Pickett and give an opportunity for a fluke punch to happen. He's going to go to his wrestling. I think he's going to take the back and land a rear naked choke relatively early in the fight. Give me Bo Nickel by sub here at only minus 120. I mean, for a guy who's minus 1,800 and we're only spending 20 cents on the dollar
that's pretty wild.
For that, to me, that's the way I'm rolling with this one.
I think
the sub
it does seem
here.
like it should be a little bit higher because he has shown submission skills already in his very, very brief MMA career. Okay, that wraps up the main card. It is a good lineup of prelims, though, including a former champion there in Cody Garbrandt taking on Trevin Jones. Run us through your prelim picks here at UFC 285.
Well, you read that right. I am taking Cody Garbrandt. I'm not going to tell you guys to bet the farm on him, but this matchup, if he's going to get a win, to me, it's against Trevin Jones, who doesn't throw much. I like Duplessis here. At that number, it's a little high. I wouldn't be shocked if you went, you know, inside the distance. I'm going to go with Amanda Ribas here. I think the judo game and top game has to be there. She cannot let Araujo land that punch. Amanda's a little chinny, but we've seen her come back. And Julia Marquez, I am going to take a flyer on him. For me, it's a dog or pass in that position. Now, Ian Gary versus Song Kenan. Look, Gary, his last 2 fights won by decision. I think he's been fighting a little bit more conservatively to get that win and move on. I'm going there. Over 1.5 for Mana and Cameron Simon. I am going Tabitha Ricci. I like her here at minus 300. I would also look at by decision. Blackshear and Basharat over 2.5 rounds. And last but not least, newly signed Loic Rajabov. I've seen him in other organizations. Very talented. Do not be afraid of the short notice. Was originally scheduled to be on The Ultimate Fighter. Pulled, now put on this card.
Okay, so it is kind of a card in which you do have a lot of big favorites on the card. So what does that mean for our parlay this week?
You know, originally, I'll be transparent. I had Bo Nickel on here, but minus 1,800 doesn't make a ton of sense. So with our parlay, we're going to go Valentina Shevchenko. Minus 800's a lot. I don't see where she loses here. We don't have to worry about the prop. Same thing with Shavkat. I'm also going to go Ian Gary. Look, I'm playing conservative here. I want to get some value with the favorite, not have to rely on these props. Tabitha Ricci and also Basharat coming off the Contender Series. He's fighting someone in Blackshear who went against Yusuf Falal, who, you know, tough fight. I think Basharat's ground game is what gets it done. And we're going to get, I believe that's plus 145 on the parlay with those favorites.
Okay, plus 145. You can need 5 of them to get it done, but a lot of confidence, high degree of confidence in those 5. Let's move on to the best bets for this Saturday.
You know, this week I went a little bit different when it comes to our strategy here. I tried to look at not just going with certain sides. I look at some of our overs in this one, all right? So I'm going to lead off with John Jones. At that number, I don't want to go any higher than this. I still feel like his wrestling grappling will get it done. We did see Gane have trouble against Francis Ngannou. Shevchenko Grasso over 2.5. In Grasso's 5 out of her last 6 by decision and 4 out of 6 for Shevchenko ended 3rd round or further. Gamrot Turner over 1.5. Bo Nickel by sub. That's already jumped up to minus 150 from minus 120, so we may be onto something there. Brunson Duplessis over 1.5. Duplessis' last 2 fights have ended in the 2nd or in the 3rd round. And Marquez Barriault, I'm going to go over 1.5. Barriault's a guy who does not know who he is yet, and Marquez needs the win. He's going to be conservative, not look to go kill or be killed in that punching.
All right, so it looks like Ian's planning on having a little bit of a late night here because all of these overs that are going to be coming in on UFC 285. Before we wrap up on UFC 285, let's talk about if you really want to take a shot, make some big money. Where are we going with the long shot parlay?
I feel like we keep getting somewhat close. I'm hoping this is finally the one. I'm going to go Jalen Turner here at plus 180. I think he keep Gamrot at a distance and land one of those knees and maybe steal a couple of rounds. Bo Nickel by sub, Amanda Ribas, and Marquez at plus 125. Gives us a pretty decent long shot right there. That'd be a nice, fun, paid out night.
Absolutely, man. So there you go. There is your long shot parlay. You got your parlay. You got your best bets. You've got all of the breakdowns for the prelims, the main card. What a great main card. And again, you can find it 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN+. That is it for us. Thank you so much for joining UFC Best Bets. And we are right back at it again next week in Las Vegas. We're not at the Apex, though. We're actually at the Virgin Theater with a fight between Petr Yan and Merab Dvalishvili. Love that fight. So we will be here talking about that. But until then, enjoy Saturday and fill those pockets, baby. We'll see you later.